What's happening, Andy? Here I am joined by Bill Stephenson of PEAC Solutions. How are you today, Bill?
I'm doing well, Andy. How you doing, buddy?
I am great. A little cold up here in the northeast. Where are you today?
I'm down here in Sawgrass, Jacksonville, my new home. So
Uh,
it's a little chilly though. It's in its 70s today.
Yeah, it's a little warmer than it is here. I would kill for 70s. Well, it's great to see you. I haven't seen you since our golf tournament back in August. You guys were a big sponsor of that, our welcome reception. I appreciate that. Everybody appreciated it. It was a great way to kick off our very first ever event, and we all had a good time. It was you guys had some golfers in it, and it was great seeing you.
Yeah, great event, great cause, and great turnout, and just great to see all the guys that I've known for decades and decades in the industry and in a real casual setting. So well done.
Thank you. It was fun. It's nice to just go out, hang out and golf and not have to do the PowerPoint thing, which is important. I do understand, but golf is it was just a good networking event. Everybody had a good time, 50 something dealers there and just fun. You guys are a great supporter of that. You've been behind plenty of tournaments. You have one yourself as well. Tell us a little bit about the club that you support.
Yeah, well, Make-A-Wish has been a passion of mine for a couple decades now, and we've raised over, I guess, 16, 17 years, almost $8 million for the charity, and we hold a once a year we hold a new one with our new company Peak at Sawgrass in March, and it's a 100% of the donations go directly to the charity, and we cover everything else. And it's just a good time to get away and support a great cause and really get good friends back together from around the country.
Well, this industry and the people in it are just very special. There is no cause I've ever seen them walk away from or turn their backs on. Just millions of dollars raised through our event and your event, the Canadas, just tons and tons of them. We do that ride every year with Stramalio, the
Yep.
Patriot ride. It's heartwarming to see.
He's still able to ride that motorcycle for
He
a few
does.
miles,
He
man.
does. He's still up there. I'm off
He's
the
got the
bike.
hair for it, I tell you.
Yeah, I'm in the back. I'm in the RV now, and he's right in front of me, and he's still out there. I don't know how he does it. I can't do it anymore, but God bless him. He's an Iron Man.
Yeah, he
Um,
is.
let's refresh for people who don't remember you. You've been around the industry for a long time. You've had a very strong history in the financial world in leasing. Tell us your background, and then let's get in a little bit about Peak.
Yeah, I mean, right out of college, I thought I was going to be a lawyer, and the only job I could get was selling copiers in Houston, Texas in 1982. It's 16% unemployment, mind you, during the oil crisis. Straight commission, Lanier Business Products. Remember Gene Miller's old company? And it was straight commission, like I said, and I was going to night school, and I just cold calling and cold calling and cold calling. And one of the things that was very evident to me is that the only part of my effort and sales process I didn't control was the financing and the leasing. And as you recall, in the 70s and 80s, the Japanese manufacturers were starting to come to the United States and set up the independent dealers. And Xerox pretty much had a product called cost per copy, which was bundling. It was difficult to understand the cost. And everywhere I went out, the customers asked me what's my cost per copy, and I just said it's 10,000 a month or 380 bucks. I mean, $10,000 or $380 a month. I didn't have a cost per copy, and at that point, said, you know what, if an independent leasing company could emerge and provide these dealers with a CPC product, I think there's an opportunity there. And the first company is called Master Lease. I don't know if you remember that, the name of Master Lease. And we started and we came with CPC product and went from zero to about 120 million in revenue in less than a year. And then
Oh,
Tokai Bank out of Nagoya, Japan, which was the largest bank in the world, the Keiretsu Bank of all the Japanese manufacturers, said, "Who's this little company?" Came in and acquired us. And then we continued to grow. Our cost of funds dropped over 800 basis points. And, we started opening up other verticals. And then the Japanese crisis hit. And then we had a private sell to Rabobank, which was DLL. And then I had spent probably, over a decade or so being the CEO running DLL globally and growing that. And then at the COVID hit, like everything else, and kind of lost my motivation and recognized I'd pretty much done just turned 60. and said, I got a lot of runway left in me, but I just don't see myself working for an international bank anymore. It's not as entrepreneurial. It's not, and our industry is very much the same players over the last 30 years, Andy. There hasn't really been a new entree into this. And I said, disruption's coming. Why not be the disruptor? So I connected with HPS, which is now BlackRock, and are part of the BlackRock family, and said, why don't we build an international independent leasing company where we have capital for growth? We can build a brand new system, IT system, which I think is our greatest differentiator, because all of our competitors are sitting on 30-year-old legacy IT platforms. It's tough to innovate. And let's see what we could do. Go out just like we did, cold calling and originating and creating value. So 3 years ago, we started PEAC Solutions. We're now in 15 countries. We have close to 8 billion in our portfolio and organically just growing every single day.
So I think you mentioned you're in more things than just office equipment, but
Yes.
what was that conversation like when you started telling people you want to do this again? It seems like at this stage in our industry, right? It's we can all address face the fact that there's a decline and there's consolidation, and we've seen banks leave, pull right out of this space over the last several years, let's say. And you turn around and say, no, there's plenty left in there. Tell me about that.
Well, there was definitely plenty left in it for me, right? I think that, one thing about COVID is, I was the CEO of a $50 billion plus company in 35 countries and managing it through this laptop in Jacksonville, right? And we got through it pretty well, but every day became longer and the passion was gone. And Andy, if you wake up every morning and you don't feel a little uncomfortable, then you're not growing, and you're never too old to, you got to grow every day. You got to challenge yourself, and complacency is the death of innovation. And it just, my wife saw it in me, and honestly, she kind of spearheaded me to say, this is not working. You need to find something that gets you up at 5 a.m. again and get you going. And that's when it struck me. And I knew our industry, at least the industry that I'm in, not so much the copier leasing industry. If you look around, it's the same bank-owned leasing companies that have been doing it for 30 years, and there hasn't been any level of disruption. We thought that the fintech companies were going to come in with state-of-the-art technology and displace us, but they had a problem with underwriting and selling. They had the idea of the technology, but they couldn't do what we could do. And I said, rather than wait for disruption and just ride this thing off into the sunset for the next 5 or 6 years, why not build a new company? And I was blessed to hook up with John and Justin at HPS, and we had a vision of building something internationally and globally. Good news about BlackRock or private credit is they love to deploy capital, and like banks that like to conserve it, so that type of funding was available. The vision was there. It's not a book and flip. It's a long-term play. Most of our funds are 10, 15 years. People think I'm building this just to flip it and sell it. That's not the case. And the biggest thing, Andy, is I was able to build a new company based on state-of-the-art systems, cloud-based technology, where I could do APIs in a week that typically would take our competitors 3, 4 months with their legacy IT systems, if at all. And I think that, speed and technology are the driving force of anything in this industry, and it helps our dealers get a quicker approval, more accurate booking, and help them sell more and retain their customers. And that's what we've done.
Well, I have to think being smaller and fresh off the ground keeps adds an element of nimbleness to your organization, especially at the beginning when you're just deciding what to go after. And other than your wife wanting you to get busy again, uh, how did you wind up starting in all these different? I mean, you're here, but you said what was it, 13 countries?
Yeah, yeah.
How did you do? How did that happen?
Well, it's just we're looking at small platforms and leasing companies. They just happen to be. We purchased a company called IKB in Germany. We did Barclays and CIT and ABN AMRO in the UK. We bought this rather than start up in the U.S. We bought this small company called Marlin, but they were already licensed in every state. We didn't have to go through the greenfield approach. So that's kind of initially, but now we're opening up countries organically. PEAC stands for Pan-European Americas Capital Solutions, by the way. So it's an acronym. And so we really just want to be in Europe, Central Eastern Europe, and the Americas. And that's kind of where we're going to focus 95%. Australia may be in the mix down the road, but that's kind of the platform there. And we also are focused in healthcare. We're focused in construction, transportation, and industrial. We just acquired E Plus, one of the largest federal and SLED leasing companies in America. So now we're heavy into the Fed and SLED business. We have a very strong inventory finance. So when you look at our industry, we basically cover the entire value line of the needs of any of our potential customers, from inventory finance to federal leasing, municipal leasing to regular leasing. And lastly, we have a very, very strong working capital product that is taking off like crazy. So we can provide, working capital for growing businesses that don't get the traditional bank loans, or if they do, it's typically subprime and extremely high. So,
You mentioned some of your acquisitions. Let's revisit a few of them. You had some important ones here, especially in our world. Why don't you go through some of those?
well, and obviously, I wouldn't call it an acquisition so much as we're working heavily in the Xerox area. They're a great partner of ours, and we help them with our technology and our servicing a lot of the independents. That was a big fish to absorb, as you can
Well,
imagine.
that was Fiddle. Was that what I'm already?
Fiddle.
Yeah,
It was
okay.
fiddle. Yeah, fiddle.
And
So
you swallow that whole thing up, and so every time I see Bob, he's talking about how much you bit off with that one. That was a big one.
well, we did. It was a quick, and as you can imagine, taking any portfolio onto a new platform, and all the little nuances that exist in that. It's not easy. I'd be very candid. It's quite painful, not only for us to decipher through that, and especially when companies do these types of things. A lot of the knowledge that was there is gone, or people start looking for other opportunities. So we can't just call up and say, "Hey, what happened on this deal?" And we have to work through it. And but the good news is most of that is way behind us. We did this in February, March of this year, so it hasn't been that long. But the goal is January. Almost all the unapplied cash or the things along those things that we're working through in joint with our partners and our dealers are rectified, and the dealers now can just experience net new on very, very efficient technology service by some of the best people in the industry.
Well, some of the best people, right? Let's talk about your staff and your team. You went from non-existent to now I see you everywhere. I see you. I mean, at every event I go to, my event, POA, I think you were at Flex, you're at BTAs, you guys are just Xerox. Just every meeting I go to, there's some peak people there. What was it like trying to get everybody on board, bringing everybody into something? I mean, you've got a reputation and a history, so I'm sure some people were very interested from the beginning, but how many people are there now? And how did you get them?
Yeah, we have over a few hundred in the United States alone, close to 450 globally. The good news, by having state-of-the-art technology that automates most of the processing of leases, paper, and credit, you don't need as many people on the back end, but you always need originators. You always need relationships. Andy, I'm a belly guy. I cold call copiers door to
Me
door for
too.
many, many years at Lanier, right?
Yep.
And to give the tools necessary to help our dealers reps close the business efficiently, quickly is a key. I didn't go for the senior guys who with me. They're pretty, they've been doing it a long time. They had very, very comfortable careers with the company that I left, and I went the level down. I went for the hungry younger generation that still has a lot of runway left. Because when I finally do swan song out and play a lot more golf and maybe drink a little less bourbon, I don't know if that's ever possible, but
Nah. I can
I
add to
want
that.
these guys and gals to really just keep driving peak to help our customers, grow as much market share as they can. And that's the theme behind creating something that's going to last for many decades to come. So getting the best people, quite frankly, I thought that would be harder. But people are hungry for change. People felt like I felt. They'd been in the same role or with the same company, and they saw where does the ladder go? And a lot of people weren't going anywhere. And I said, "Hey, you're willing to take a risk," and they did. I didn't pay them a lot of money up front. I said, "We're a pay for performance culture. You pay and you perform. You can make as much money as you want." But there weren't any guarantees or any guaranteed bonuses. I wanted everybody to take the same level of risk that I took because people thought I was crazy. You're the CEO of the largest international leasing company in the world, and you're retiring and starting all over. Why? And I think we answered that. But I wanted everybody around me to feel that same level of hunger. Because again, as I said, if you get up in the morning, you don't have little butterflies or feel challenged, you're not growing. And trust me, our guys are feeling challenged during this state of our growth.
Well, they must be. And when you're commission heavy and you started your career 100% commission with the Lanier boys, I actually just saw Gene and Kaysen down at the Rico event. So that the Milner legacy is still strong.
Yeah.
But when you set things up like that, you get rewarded for your work.
Hmm.
And if you're not going to work hard, you're not going to make very much money. So it sounds like you've got a good team. The people I met have been wonderful, just great, great people. Even when we weren't working together, which you are now working with us. Thank you. But these guys are everywhere and just in the right places with the right people. And they're nice guys, nice girls. Everyone I've met from there is just class act.
Right. Well, thank you. That means a lot. Because at the end of the day, we're a people business, right? I
You
mean,
are,
that's what
you
it's
are.
about. Yep.
So you mentioned a handful of verticals. I remember a couple of them, but we went through that quickly. Is that the end? Are you guys going to move into more verticals as you get more established in these? Are you going to focus on these? What's the go
Well,
forward?
I never say never, but when you look at the verticals that I've mentioned, they all have different peaks and valleys depending on economic times, and I think one area that we're probably not going to go into is the agricultural business. It's so heavily subsidized and the banks like it, and it's tough to really make a pretty good profit for the effort that you put into it. But I'm pretty happy with what we have. We have a few more countries we have to knock out in Europe, then our platform will be complete, and then we're really going to be focusing on the large international programs and growing the verticals that we have. And the product overlays with inventory finance and Fed and SLED and the working capital product really give us some differentiation that our typical bank lessors don't. And there's only one other leasing company in the world that's in Europe and the United States other than us. So we're typically dealing with just regional lessors as our major competitors. And I
Yeah.
and I know that other company very well.
Yeah, I think you do. What what's the, why peak? If I'm a customer, if I'm a dealer, even if I'm an end user, I've got all these other companies I've known for years. I'm familiar with them. You're the new kid on the block. If I was selling against you, I would say, who knows if they'll be here in a few years, But obviously
Yeah.
you've made it clear you will be here for quite a while. But what's the value add for you guys versus, some of the other brands that are out there? What do you bring to the table?
Well, I think the biggest one is, we're out there working hard to earn your business. And everybody that works at Peak Solutions has carried a bag. We understand how difficult it is for a sales rep to finally get a customer to say yes. And the only part of the sales process they really don't control and influence is the financing. That's when they have to let go of this customer they may have been working on for 6 months. And then and I view that not as an obligation. And a lot of our competitors are very complacent, and the business will come in no matter what. They have the portfolios, but I view it as an opportunity and a privilege to try to get that approval and that customer documented and funded as quickly as possible so the reps can get paid their commission and move on to the next transaction. So, and quickly, we're the only international independent in the world. We're the largest independent. We're BlackRock from a capital and a credit and a financial stability perspective. Our funds are 15 years, so anybody questioning this is a book and flip can think twice about that. We have the best, most state-of-the-art technology, which doesn't seem like a lot. What are you just processing leases and billing and collecting? But that's not the case. And we have the best people. So from a capital, equity perspective, from a technology perspective, from a people perspective, we will earn your business every single day.
Well, the thing that jumps out at me, and I remember this from my days, is you get right to the end of a sale, and now it's in, like you said, it's in somebody else's hands. You've lost control. They come back to you. They tell the customer they need more. You don't want that. You want to close the deal and get on. When that customer has made that commitment, when they've signed all those documents, you don't want to have to keep going back with requirements. I don't care if it's internal to your own company or from that leasing company, but when it's in the leasing company's hands, you're frozen. You're just
Yes,
stuck there, and and you're waiting, and you're vulnerable to another person coming in trying to at the last second beat that deal. Maybe the customer doesn't like the new terms or the new requirements that the company's putting on them, and then the deal stalls or blows up, or worse, you lose it. And you work so hard to get to that point, and to have it fall apart because of something that you can't control. I get that. I really understand. I've been through it, and there's no other way to say it. It sucks. It's the worst part
it
of the
is.
job when you're a sales rep, is when you think you've got it and all you need to do is have them get through credit, and maybe that customer's had some a bad quarter, a bad couple of months, or just whatever the reason. Maybe they're just having a hard time. But when you can't get them through credit, everything is stopped, and you're going to lose the deal.
But you're spot on, and as a matter of fact, that's been the driving northern light of my entire career. Is the first sale that I made, cold calling, was a lawyer at 5 o'clock on a Friday trying to print some documents for a case he had on Monday. He was going to go to the ocean. He was going to the beach, and he couldn't get the copier to work. And I rolled mine out of the van, and I saved his day, and but it took me 4 days before I could go back, and the competitor had fixed the problem and my machine was sitting in a closet, and I said, God, if I could have just signed him up right there and got the financing done on the spot. And for the dealers that really want to empower their reps to control that at point of sale, we are the only system that through an iPad or their iPhone, once they configure the transaction and we can API into their system, no problem at all, that they can get the automatic approval and e-doc that customer before they walk out the door. So we pretty much have the ability to empower sales reps to now control the financing. Now, a lot of the larger dealers want it to come back to the lease administrator and go through that internal process, and we respect that. But we're saying if you really want to give that rep at end of month and get that customer signed and get the equipment delivered and move on, we have that ability too.
Well, even certain reps, right? You don't have to empower your whole sales force. Maybe not all the
Right.
geo guys, but the major account people who've been with you for 10, 15 years, who really, you don't want them getting held up on a little technicality while, you're out doing other stuff, or at a SDG meeting or wherever you are, right? You need
Exactly.
to get this done, and it needs to happen whether you're there or not. And I appreciate that capability. That's awesome. So going forward over the next, I don't know, next year, 26, what are you looking forward to?
Well, I'm just looking forward to really getting this major partnership, all the bugs finally ironed out of it, which we should have done this year, and get back to origination. We have a lot of acquisitions that we're looking at, which is the benefit of being part of this family. We got a couple big things in Europe that are brewing too. But really just going now and executing and taking market share and growing organically and allowing our reps to grow their careers financially and professionally and bring on new customers. And I think, One last thing, you asked me, why peak? Andy, I also know just about every major dealer in this country. Over 40 years. I've built my whole career around the copier leasing industry. And, I've had dealers call me and say, "Hey, Bill, this company looks like crap on paper. I'm behind this, I'll help, trust me, if the deal goes bad, we'll work it out together." But, I said, if you believe in it, I believe in it. Let's do it, man. And it's not that we're writing bad business. It's not that we're taking unnecessary risk, but our customers know their market and their customers better than I ever will, or better than a balance sheet and financial statement is going to say on a piece of paper that banks typically only underwrite to financial statements and balance sheets and P&Ls. And we're a behavioral underwriter. You call me up and say, "Bill, I believe in this customer. I'm behind him 100%. Help me out, man." We work through stuff like that. I'm not advocating sending my phone ringing off the hook now with every bad deal in America, but I think you know what we're talking about, and having those 40-year relationships with the dealers in this industry and the years that we have gone through negative situations and we've helped both parties out, I think is an intangible that should not be overlooked.
Well, it sounds like you removed a lot of barriers. There's just a lot less hoops to jump through.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean that's, simplicity is what these guys are looking for out there. I'm sure your other industries are very interesting. I'd like to maybe do a follow up on some of that. What I really want to do is a follow up. Maybe we get one of the people on your team to take us through the app and the process, how it works, how it could work in the field. I think that would be really valuable for our viewers to see. But Bill, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing all this with us.
Thank you, buddy. God bless you, and you just have a productive rest of your week.
You too. I'll talk to you soon, man. Thank you.
Okay, man.
Bye.